Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on the Daily Drive as we get another week started together. Man, I hope you had a great weekend. My name is Mike Bro, and I thought for the next few weeks we would dive into a little book in the back of the Bible called the Book of James. It is jam-packed with practical wisdom for our journey. You know, one of the very cool life experiences that I wish all of you could experience at least once in your life is the joy of standing in the water next to a person who's about to be baptized. I mean, their hands are shaking, their eyes are watering, their lips are quivering. There is something exhilarating about looking into the eyes of somebody who's been overwhelmed by amazing grace. And I just got to do that recently. It's always so fun. Never, ever gets old. As they stand there before God, they got their family, they got their friends, they're overcome with emotion. I mean, things like passion, sincerity, commitment are pounding in their heart, and they publicly state that they are surrendering to the forgiveness and leadership of Jesus. They often feel closer to God and more sold out in that moment than at any other time in their life. And the last thing they could ever imagine is that their heart would ever grow cold toward God, that they would ever lose this kind of joy, that they would ever waver or doubt His presence in their lives. But roll the video of their lives, well, our lives for that matter, ahead 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, and you see these freshly redeemed followers of Jesus getting smacked in the face with life. Some pretty hard trials start to roll in, and their faith gets tested. Anybody else relate? Man, I've been there. And I'm guessing there's some of you listening to this who are just trying to hang on to another day. Some are striving to hang on to their marriage, onto their sobriety. Some are striving to hang on after the death of a loved one. Some are struggling to hang on in the midst of an illness that has plagued them for far too long. Some are a caregiver to a special needs family member or somebody in the throes of a disease or a stroke, and you're just exhausted. Some are striving to hang on because of financial pressure, just trying to hang on to their business, their car, their house for one more month. Some of you might be struggling to hang on to your faith in Jesus. What started like a rocket ship now seems like prayers go unanswered, and relationships feel shallow, and the church seems a little boring, and the Bible sounds a bit hollow. So to those of you with a sagging spirit and a worn-out will, God has one word for you today from the book of James: persevere. Persevere. Now, let me give you some background to James before we jump into the passage. Some of you are familiar with what happened in the city of Jerusalem in Acts chapter 2, when thousands of Jews put their faith in Jesus and were baptized. And then in the weeks and months following, thousands more come to faith and are baptized. And the church is rocking. People are rejoicing as their lives are changing from the inside out. Their friends are finding hope, and on the surface, things could not have been any better. But then, storms roll in. Trials and testing come their way in the form of a great persecution. And thousands of these Jewish followers of Jesus are forced to flee Jerusalem, and they scatter all over the place. I mean, it's tough sledding for them wherever they go. Romans and Greeks reject them because of their Jewish background. Jews reject them because they're now followers of Jesus. They're in foreign and unfamiliar lands, and life is tough, and faith is tougher. And that's the context of this letter. And so the book begins with these words: James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, greetings. So he's writing primarily to these Jewish people that have been persecuted, rejected, and scattered because of their faith in Jesus. And the James who is writing this is not the James of, Peter, James, and John fame. It's James, the brother of Jesus, more accurately, half-brother, same mama, different daddies. And what's intriguing about this James is he did not believe in Jesus during his earthly ministry. I mean, how many of you had a brother growing up? Let me ask you, what would it take for you to believe that your brother was God? It'd be a hard sell, right? So James grows up living with Jesus, playing ball with Jesus, discussing girls with Jesus, and as Jesus starts his ministry, James thinks Jesus is crazy. And that there's a time over in the Gospel of John that he and his brothers actually make fun of their famous brother. Now, I'm sure there was respect and even admiration for all the character traits that he saw in Jesus. But James was not buying into the whole come from God thing. He does not believe Jesus is who he claimed to be until he sees his dead brother alive again after the resurrection. And James becomes a passionate, sold-out believer and goes on to be one of the primary leaders of the early church in Jerusalem. So years later, he's writing this letter to people scattered in many lands and nations, enduring some really tough stuff. And I love that James doesn't begin this letter name-dropping about his big celebrity brother. He doesn't say, hey, this is James, brother of the Alpha and Omega, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the great I am, yep. shared a bunk bed with him. No, he just says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, because that's what now defined his life. Now, James could have eased into what he wanted to say in this letter with some of the customary niceties that are found in most letters to the followers of Jesus in the Bible, but there's no small talk. There's no, hey, tell so-and-so hi for me. But instead, he gets right to the point, the reason for this letter. He says this, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So he tells them and tells us, hang in there, persevere through trials, because they are producing some unexpectedly priceless stuff in you. So consider it pure joy. Now, those are not easy words to hear when you're right in the middle of a heart-wrecking season of your life. I mean, all of us are in one of three groups right now. You're either in the middle of a trial, or you're coming out of a trial, or you're heading into a trial in your future. Because Jesus told us in this world, you will have trouble, you will have trials. Expect it. I mean, life can be really, really good, but it can be really, really hard. And it's how we respond that makes the difference. So James is saying your attitude is going to play a role in determining the outcome. You see, you and I can view trials as an enemy who comes to destroy us, or as a friend who comes to develop us. The biography of Winston Churchill is over 4,000 pages, and it traces his incredible leadership through Britain's darkest days, but there is a sad ending. After all his courageous and valiant leadership that saves a nation, he's booted out of office, and his wife says to him, "Oh, Winston, it's probably a blessing in disguise." And he replies, "Yes, very effectively disguised." When trials hit, it's hard to see how they could lead to a blessing in your life. But James says, consider it, which means to take a deliberate look at it and see how this trial really can be a friend in your life, a blessing in disguise. Now, we don't consider the trial a joy, but we consider what can result from the trial as a joy. And we don't thank God for the situation. We thank him in the situation. We don't thank God for the trial, but we consider it pure joy, what he can do in us through the trial. You see, pain is always the pathway to growth, and we all want gain without the pain, right? We all wish we could improve our cardio without walking or jogging or doing the Peloton. We all wish we could get ripped without ever having to lift a weight. We all wish we could become smarter without ever reading a book or studying. We all wish we could become the CEO without starting in the warehouse. We all wish we could experience gain without pain, but let's be honest. We all know that ain't the way life works. There is no gain, physically, relationally, professionally, and especially spiritually in your life without some pain. And you know what, gang? We don't get to choose our trials in life, and we don't get to choose when they come. But we can choose our attitude toward them, how we will react, and in whom we will trust. So I pray we will all let the words of James ring in our hearts today. Consider it pure joy. Consider it pure joy. Consider it pure joy. Hang in there. Persevere, because God is doing some good stuff behind the scenes. He promises that. I'll see you back here tomorrow.